Yo, how's it going, everybody? Today we're talking about a brief moment in my life. Not technically the first, but the more notable one where I didn't have a home to live in and I lived out of my car. So from May to December of 2019, I lived out of my car during that time. I also found out that one of my mothers had stage 4 brain cancer. She is kind of okay now. The brain cancer is not the issue. Now it's just another type of cancer, unfortunately. Don't want to focus on that. She probably wouldn't want me telling anyone that. Point is, I was just going through a lot of stressful shit, right? You're probably wondering, how did you end up in this wild situation? And that right there is actually the point of the video, is that anyone, for the most part, can end up in that situation. A lot of misfortune in life is just completely random, or maybe it's an accident due to ignorance, or maybe it's actually something horrible attributed to malice. Whatever. I don't entirely know the intentions of why this went down, and I can't claim to. What I can say is just my experience and what I've put together. I don't really hold a grudge against anyone. I, in some ways, appreciate when life gives you a little kick in the butt towards a new direction, towards a new opportunity. At least I choose, in other words, I'll say it this way, I choose to see the silver lining in life's misfortunes. So, whatever. But the point is, what really started this, the first instance, I should say actually the second and third instance of me having the nerve to tell my slumlord Rob, he likes to go by Bob, that my home's windows were continuously leaking water. Literally, imagine looking at your window and you got just water just running down that bitch. Not the ideal situation. As a homeowner, if I was renting out my property, I'd want to know about that right away. The whole point of owning the home is your investment, and it's only going to really appreciate in value if you maintain it. So, with my ability to see nuance and see both sides, I can understand why landlords need to charge a certain amount of rent. I understand that if you're an actual good landlord, you're putting all that money right back into the property so that it retains its values and it appreciates its value and it maintains staying an appreciating asset. No shit, right? Now, from what I've understood, you become a slumlord when you're not maintaining your property, but you're still letting someone live in it, and the property is, or was, or started as a deteriorated state, or is deteriorating because of lack of upkeep, lack of care. In most rental agreements, the landlord is the one who is responsible for the the upkeep and maintenance of the property, and making sure it's in a suitable, livable, habitable place. And sometimes that is enforceable by law. Certain states, certain counties and cities have carved out legal protections for the renters. So yeah. And I think they should carve out more protections. Once again, that's kind of the point of this whole story I'm going to tell you. Unfortunately, in my instance, after I notified my landlord of the walls leaking, I was served with an eviction notice the next day. Several times in this business relationship, that's what renting is. It's a contract for services like any other business agreement. Unfortunately, in this situation, he's done this before, where I've complained about something that any reasonable property owner would want to know about, to once again, as I have said, to maintain the property. Instead, I was greeted with an eviction which, pursuant to Minnesota state law, is considered a retaliatory instance, a revenge eviction potentially. Unfortunately, in court, there were so many people lined up behind us for that day's docket that Judge Siefkin never gave me any time of day to defend myself. He just said, I don't have time, I got to get to the next case. I was literally never allowed to speak or defend myself in any way at all. Literally. I had a whole leather pad folio of exhibits and evidence documenting the current state of the property. He saw that and did not give me the time to speak because he knew I was prepared. Fuck you, Judge. You're a piece of shit for that one. You have a job to do your due diligence and participate in some form of discovery so that both sides have an ample opportunity to present all of their exhibits on the matter. If you don't have that, both parties have the right to get more time on your docket and have a continuance. Neither party had a lawyer. I would argue that it was the judge's burden at that point to make sure both sides had ample time. It's never offered any continuance or anything. Fuck you, Judge. You're a bad judge for that one. With that being said, I do believe Bob Ford perjured himself in court by lying about the matter. As far as I know, he refused to cash every check we paid him, which were all on time, in full, for the rent, as far as I know. And then the good gentleman decided to lie in court saying we never paid him. That's just an abuse of the law, sir. You violated a gray zone, which was given to the judge so that they could have discretion and grant leniency in most matters, not for the petitioners to abuse. You're not cashing the checks, but your repeated acceptance of them seems pretty important for this matter. Now, with that being said, yeah, I guess you could argue we technically didn't pay him on the basis of him choosing to not cash the checks. From the little bit I know, because most of these discussions were unfortunately between just my father and Bob, since I thought they were like on good terms and actually like friends. You know, they'd go on like hunting trips together type shit. So, you know, that's, I guess, our bad. You know what they say, don't mix friends and family into business, right? Anyways, from the little bit I understood, he just kept trying to hike up the rental price for a property that, in my opinion, should have been condemned. That's just pure greed. He did literally nothing to ever improve upon the property, maintain the property, or show any ample fucks to give in return, regarding just caring about his property as an asset as a whole. The dude just couldn't give a fuck less. Like, okay, if that's how you want to go about your business, fine. But don't hike up the value of the rent when you're literally not doing anything to improve the property. In fact, I don't even think that's legal in some states and in some countries. You actually have to prove you're working on the property and doing shit to actually have grounds to increase the rent. So our only retort was to get a rental inspection, which he failed, and that rendered the home unrentable until he would update it and meet code, which only ever happened fairly recently, which I find funny. As I said, this wasn't the first documented instance of retaliation due to me notifying the landlord of the property being damaged or having any other issues. But it's really important to note that I was a teenager, like literally like 19, 20, young adult, and I still, didn't know much about my rights as a renter. and I was learning those rights, and I think he very much abused that. Not that that's anything I could stand on any solid ground on in a courtroom. I think that just speaks more to the person's character. But then again, who's ever called a landlord ethical? Not many people ever have. I think being a landlord in and of itself comes with just a lot of responsibility and burden. I don't think people shouldn't be landlords, but I think it's a morally gray area to profit off of someone else's basic human right and need to have a roof over their head. You know? Like, I don't think people should be over here struggling to make ends meet just to have a roof over their head. But I guess society isn't evolved enough to where we can just house everyone for free, even though we have more empty houses than homeless people in America, as far as I've understood. Correct me if I'm wrong. So due to my ignorance as still being a child in most people's eyes, even though you're legally an adult, I would consider an 18-year-old a child. You know, I'd consider a 19-year-old ignorant. Like, you're an adult, but you're a baby adult. I think that's the better way to put it. Let me correct myself there. You're a baby adult. Someone said you have 18 years to learn how to live life, and then you have another 18 years to learn how to be an adult. Because now the training wheels are off. So, like, until you're 36, you're definitely not, like, an adult with probably enough authority, wisdom, and experience to really be considered cognizantly sound to be evicted in court. Let's be real about it. And if I'd go as far as to say, as a lot of adults probably are ignorant of the facts when it comes to their rights as renters, and they might be thrusted into a position to where they have to learn all these rights in a matter of days just to have a hope of defending themselves and not having their entire life just fucked over. So yeah, I did get steamrolled in court because of that. That sucks. I really find these actions to be a callous and selfish and heartless move on the landlord's part, slumlord, excuse me. People like this, in my opinion, have no shame and deserve no respect. They're just losers looking to profit off of other people's basic needs. If they're not doing the bare minimum, you know? Imagine having a fucking pet. Would you want your pet out in the rain in some rickety-ass doghouse? Or maybe just a fenced-in one with no toys and, like, no bathroom or other shit and just missing amenities? I know a bathroom might not be the best thing to list for a dog example, but bear with me. The point is, any living creature that's dependent on another living creature to house them deserves the best housing situation, don't they? You know, if you mistreat your animal, it's animal abuse. So there should be no difference. And in a lot of states there aren't, even in my state. But the judge didn't give me the damn time of day, which I find really disappointing. Again. And then landlords who take advantage of that really are just losers. They don't deserve respect. They deserve nothing but shame. Your ill-gotten gains don't make you better than your tenants. They don't make you better than anyone. If anything, they make you lesser than everyone, because you're not contributing anything fucking original to the world. It's like insurance agents. I fucking hate insurance agents. You aren't a good businessman because your job is legally mandated to be a thing. If the government didn't require everyone to have insurance, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, I'm just saying don't act like you're some entrepreneurial genius because you're a fucking insurance agent. Another dickwad named Bob taking shots at you. But yeah, landlords, you're not providing anything new or crazy unless you're like an actual architect. Like, you're no Frank Lloyd Wright. Fuck out of here. Unless you're doing some crazy cool shit and really catering to your tenants' needs and being there for them, you're literally a leech on society. And I know people know that. There's no way you could look in the mirror and be like, yeah, I'm banging my bitch tonight because I think I'm a big man because I made a living off of other people's basic needs. Yeah. Yeah, let's be real. Let's be real. So let me get into this a little bit more. This home had damaged siding. a flooding basement, broken windows. The windows were in fact broken into, and I was robbed at one point. Mold, missing wood flooring in the bathroom. It's just disgusting. Leaking windows, broken cement in the driveway, just massive. The entire cement driveway was just fucked. In an inaccessible garage. Like, brother, what a fucking con that is. What a scam. He likes to think, he gave me this whole spiel when I first looked at the property. He's like, I like to help people out when they're in need, blah, 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 but they always seem to fuck me over. Bob, if that many people are having issues with you, you're clearly the problem. You're clearly profiteering off of people's basic needs, sir. I could see why all these people hated your guts and kept trashing the house more and more every time you evicted them. It's because you were probably price gouging on the rent for no fucking reason. You didn't do the damn thing to maintain the home, but you kept thinking you were justified to price hike the rent. You can't do zero fucking work and expect to be paid for it, brother. That is not how a business is run, sir. Seriously, like, what the fuck? Seriously, imagine if, like, your grandparents were in this situation, your aunt, your niece, your nephew, your own kid at one point. You know deep down that it's wrong. By all means, the house probably should have been condemned. I'm not gonna lie. And based on the renovations they did, they probably took that fucker down to the studs and redid it all. And that was only after years of me being gone and the house just sitting vacant. This guy was such a successful businessman. Why didn't he just do it when he had a tenant living in it? Like, come on. Sir, you clearly lack any sense of business acumen. And the only thing you are... what is the right word here? The only thing you are overburdened with is your hubris. The only reason you even updated the home and wouldn't have taken advantage of more people is because of that failed rental inspection. Let's be real. You can see how shitty the house was on Google Maps photos. Look at that fucking driveway. Disgusting. I'm not going to share any interior shots. I don't think that'd be fair to the people that might currently be living there. If anyone is, I don't know. I don't think that'd be fair to them. You know, that's just weird and creepy. I'm self-aware. I'm not going to be that much of a creep. No one needs to know the layout of anyone else's home without consent. But let's get to the other meat and potatoes. Living out of my car taught me, like, a lot of valuable things that in some ways I wish I didn't know. I learned that those who really care about you will go out of their way to help you. And even you have to ask yourself, too, like, who can I go to for help in this situation? Who do I trust? Who can I be vulnerable to? And you gotta hope that they'll actually be there for you. I could tell by the people who I went to for help, by the people who offered me help that I denied, and by the people who offered that I accepted, and by the people who actually went above and beyond out of their way to help me, who actually, like, I should keep around in my life, who I should shove away in my life. And people probably would pay millions of dollars for that level of therapy and realization and clarity, and probably shell out years of time in therapy just to figure that out. Or you could go through some real fucking tough shit and figure it out the hard way. I learned that the vultures in your life will make your trauma about them. One person, my former business partner and employer that I sued, was mad that I wouldn't accept his accept his offer to live in his home. But man, I was terrified of him as much as everyone else was. I knew being under the same roof would be exactly what this guy would want because I believe he was preying on me. And if he had that much more control over my life, as he already held my wages above my head, which is why I sued him for wage theft, he would probably abuse that level of power in my life in all the wrong ways. So I avoided that abusive relationship, and just like abusers do, instead of just being okay with it. He was just pissed. And he was pissed I was moving out of the same city he lived in. It's just really weird. And it's just like, bro, why would other people turn this situation that I'm in, this traumatic situation I'm in, and make it about your own bullshit? Like, this person even went on to say that me buying a house was his personal greatest accomplishment in life. Why are you trying to, like, take away my own fucking shit, bro? Like, damn. I earned that money myself, man. What the fuck? With that being said, I also learned that people in that situation, you need all the help you can get when you're unexpectedly homeless. A lot of life's tragedies really just come out of the blue and fuck people over. This was that situation for me because I didn't see it coming, because my father and my landlord I thought were on good terms, and out of the blue they weren't. Whoops. Neither of them really took it upon themselves to educate me, which is one of the other grievances I have with Bob Ford, is that at what point do you be an adult and, like, try to explain your side of the situation so that maybe I could take it upon myself to find a remedy too? I don't know what I don't know, and I think it's very dishonest and disingenuous to assume that the 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 21-year-old in this situation, 22-year-old, I think I was there for a few years, actually has a fucking clue about your agreement. Like, come on. That's on both of y'all. So, that's just fair and objective for me to say. With that being said, one of the other key points of this video, the main point, is that I learned we as a society need to do a shit ton more to offer help to any human being that ends up in these situations. Why does America have more empty homes than homeless people? Like, I don't know. I don't think it's fair that we aren't helping a lot of these people. And in fact, I almost feel like it's counterintuitive that states even like Minnesota here have such crazy adverse possession laws. I am all for a person squatting in someone's home and using adverse possession to then take legal ownership of that home if they're gonna maintain it, upkeep it, upgrade it, update it, renovate it, all the whole 9 yards, and make it a legally compliant property with all the codes and regulations that any city would have. You know, if they're going to do the work that the landlord isn't going to do, the landlord shouldn't be allowed to just sit on that real estate. That's just immoral. As another gentleman in Australia had worn on his shirt, the phrase, "good people break bad laws," seems to have a lot of truth in these situations. If you're in a housing crisis, and we are, maybe we should do something. At least something more than the bare minimum. Lord knows the government moves slowly about real matters, but when it comes to, like, banning apps and foreign competitors, they work overnight. I get that there are some legitimate concerns in that too, due to government privacy. I get it. I'm just saying, the point is the government can work quick as hell when they need to, but then they move slow as fuck when real human lives are at stake. I'm not even talking about myself when I say that either. I was lucky to have a support network in all of this. I really was. But that also brings me back to something else crazy, which is I learned that I really do hate all the inauthentic celebrities that cosplay as homeless or act like they have anything in common with the average citizen going through these situations. Like that one rich dick who said, I'm gonna give up all my money and shit and be homeless and show you that you can make $1 million in a year. And the dude just backtracked and got sick and realized that it wasn't possible, but instead he moved the goalpost and said that he succeeded in showing other things and doing other things. No, bro, you failed your initial idea, and instead you actually showed how life's bullshit can hit you out of nowhere, like the illness he was with, and can just ruin your entire life. It's fucking crazy. Finally, I learned that anyone who downplays the severity of being homeless, especially homeless by circumstance and not by choice, there are a lot of people who consciously live out of their car. I'm not talking about them. Those people chose that. Usually they insulate their car and they get it up to a certain specification to weather the elements and meet all their basic needs, whether that's using a bathroom, showering, cleaning your teeth, having hot food, having entertainment, having a cell phone, and all that. Yeah, there's a huge difference between that and unplanned homelessness. And I still had a phone and I still had a car, a newish car, so it was still not super uncomfortable outside of the size to be in. It was a Ford Fiesta though. If you know anything about those, they are like compact cars. So it wasn't the most comfortable thing at all. And it still was really upsetting because like I'll go over that later. The situation really changed my entire view of the world. I really did realize how cold and heartless our world is. And it's upsetting. I said it once, I'll say it again, and I'll say it every time. I was lucky to have the support network that I did. I literally went from sleeping in my car in a graveyard next to my dead best friend's grave to living with my ex and her father, and we're still friends. I chose that spot because one, I didn't realize I could just camp out at a truck stop or a Walmart. But two, my mom with her brain cancer was just stressing me out. And I kind of just wanted to be next to someone that I knew I could always tell everything to and feel comfortable with. So I just kind of made the personal decision to just stay there for the night. Yeah. I should say stay there for many fucking nights. But, falling asleep in a tiny ass Ford Fiesta is not anyone's ideal situation. Bathing using a sink to be semi-presentable for my job was nothing short of upsetting. Losing sales and being discriminated against at my job by my business partners and employers because I didn't have access to the same amenities as my other partners and colleagues was really fucking depressing. It really showed me who these people were. And it was really just eye-opening. Even people you think are your closest friends and allies aren't really there for you in a lot of meaningful ways until it's either convenient for them or they feel like they really just have to, if they even will after that point. I'm not saying they didn't help out in other ways. You know, the one helped me move in and the other gave me some space to store some of my items when I was homeless, so I didn't have to pay like a storage unit. So I do appreciate that. But like, did they hold it over my head a lot? Well, the one definitely did. The other didn't, like I said. But I am grateful for the help they did give me. I'm just not grateful that I felt like the only reason they helped me was because they felt like I would be in debt to them for it. You know, helping people because you want to help someone is one thing. These guys told me they only help people if that person can help them later on. So, good deeds done with bad intentions, I don't think are good deeds. I think that's just manipulation. But there were a lot of other people that genuinely just did help me because they wanted to help. One of my business partners did help me because he genuinely just wanted to help, and I appreciate that. The other was facing other morally weird issues about the whole situation and definitely made that my problem when he didn't need to be, and should have just been happy for me to find a home eventually. But that's not the point here. The point is that when you can't rely on your immediate social networks or support groups or safety nets, we need to have more legislation and wording and protections and organizations that exist to help people that don't have that. And that's one of the biggest things I've realized. I spent many months looking for places to rent or homes to buy because I knew if I started burning up money on renting even just a tiny apartment, I wouldn't be able to have like a down payment for a home. And anyone my age knows that the housing market sucks and isn't really great unless you got like dual income, gift from your parents or in-laws, or maybe inherited something. I don't think a lot of people my age are ever going to be able to own a home, at least at this point in our lives. Not by choice. That's the other key point here. So imagine renting a home and suddenly being evicted because you didn't know your rights, and having some people trying to prey on that, some people trying to help you, and just trying to stay sane while your mother dies of cancer, or you have other things going on. Imagine having children. Like, holy shit. Just typing this out, I was crying because I was just imagining what it would be like to have a fucking family and be in this situation. Like, wow. I just wish our society did more to help people in these situations. I know there are a lot of how do I phrase this? Safety nets out there and programs out there. And I'll link some of the ones that I find in the video description. But I don't think we're doing enough. And I talk about that more later. I did spend many months looking for places to rent and homes to buy. And I was very peculiar about that because I knew I needed the next home to buy to be a home base for me to safely get away from the situation I was in at my job and business. And I knew I also just needed a place that would help me just, I don't know, how do I word this? Truly be independent after dealing with the nonsense that was living out of my car. You know, like after that, and after the trauma coming from your last landlord, you rightfully aren't going to want to have another landlord. And with the eviction, you're probably not even going to have a lot of ease with finding a decent place to live. So once again, I was lucky. There are a lot of families and individuals that are going through this type of situation that aren't as lucky. Unfortunately, the heat turned to snow, and that is around the time my ex and her father let me move in with them. And just putting it out there, but a Ford Fiesta isn't very insulating. When sleeping outside in the colder weather, I'd have to wake up and like repeatedly turn on the heat and turn the car back on so the battery wouldn't die or I'd run out of gas. It wasn't very fun, really. It fucking sucked. Like, it really fucking sucked, man. I would like to take a moment to thank my ex and her father for letting me live there. Obviously, I did pay them rent, but it was a home over my head, and it was a shit ton better than what I was dealing with. So thank you. That was a world of difference to me. I'll never forget that. Around the time it was like December, I was able to move in to a home I bought. I finally had a place to call my own again that was actually my own. But now I was just stressing about my mother's brain cancer and the infighting with my company, and I totaled my car by lightly tapping a deer. The deer actually walked away, but a Ford Fiesta is a tiny ass car, so the car did not. I really am like thankful my life isn't boring, but like goddamn, sometimes things just don't stop coming and coming and coming. And usually at this point in life, you can probably relate. I really do hope I never forget the adversity I've gone through, especially this situation. And I hope we as a society and species do more to help our fellow humans when they're struggling for any reason. Honestly, that right there is the core point of me talking about this video, talking about this experience, excuse me. And that's what I want to get through to people's heads. And if I can get that through your heads, I will feel better about sharing these vulnerable moments of my life. You know, I don't have to do any of this, but I want to, and I feel compelled to, because I want other people to know that you can get out of these horrible situations and get to somewhere better. You know, a lot of times I've struggled in life, and in the moment I'm like, oh, nothing will get better. But time and time again, as long as I keep my nose to the ground and stay focused on educating myself, learning my rights, learning what my opportunities and options are, looking for help in people that have been in this situation, Googling it, making calls, humbling myself and realizing that I gotta ask for more help. As long as I keep putting all that work in, you can hopefully get out of that situation. Hopefully. Once again, I was lucky. Very, 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 very lucky. Extremely lucky. There's so many other little things that could have gone wrong that didn't. And I very much understand that and have nothing but the will to help anyone that is in this situation, which is partially why my clothing brand is trying to give free clothing away to children who are in need. And it's also why I bring these stories up to like legislators I talk to and people who have the ability to enact real meaningful change. There are just so many more people that are not as lucky and need even more help, because one more thing goes wrong that didn't go wrong in my life or your life or someone else's life. And that one more thing could be the difference between the camel's back breaking or not. But here's what I want to circle back around to that I kind of briefly mentioned, which is it really is hard to be in that situation. You know? My car was already paid off. If it wasn't, I could have been hurting for cash to even have a down payment to rent a place or buy a place. And that eviction already made it harder, if not impossible, to rent a place. I was lucky to have a place to store my things, so I wasn't burdened with having a rental storage fee. And I was lucky to have a place to stay eventually that wouldn't have also tanked my income. With all of that help, I could have still have just been in a horrible situation or a worse situation. Because let me tell you, the available last minute places to rent were not ideal at all, and would certainly not have been ideal for someone with a family or a pet. I would hate to imagine being in those situations, and I want nothing but education, freely accessible education, and more easily acceptable help given to anyone else in these situations. So like, write your legislators, show them this video, make it clear that, you know, all it takes is having one bad landlord or one bad day to be the difference between you having a roof over your head and not. Truthfully. Damn. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of just hard to talk about all this. But think about it, you know, if all these things are piling up, suddenly maybe you don't have a mode of transportation. Maybe you don't have the ability to get to like a library and get on like Zillow and search for homes. Maybe you didn't have the ability to pay your phone bill now. because your money has to go to different things. There's just so many variables that I think people miss. So yeah, I'm very grateful to be where I'm at in life right now to this day. I'm grateful for what I've been able to take away from this experience. I hope me talking about it can bring someone else some peace and some comfort, knowing that they can go from a horrible experience to a lot better and more positive place in life, and that they can turn it all around. It might be hard. It might be some of the hardest shit you're going to go through ever. But being able to get through that is going to test you in ways that you'll never have been tested, which will reward you in ways that you will never have been rewarded before. You will learn things about yourself. You will learn things about the people in your life. You will learn things about the places you live and the protections and rights you have. And if you can get through it, you will know that you can face even tougher shit, and that you'll be able to get through just equally as hard shit in the future. And that could be the difference between you being a success or not in whatever aspect of life that you want to achieve more in. And that's just crazy, you know? Having the ability to know you can endure things is priceless. But we got to make sure we're there for people so that, you know, the people who can't endure these things alone or who don't have the safety net have some form of protections that they can rely on, because that's what I want my fucking tax money to go to. I want to make sure everyone has social services and security nets so that they don't have to go through this like I went through this, especially people who have it far worse. I'm not saying that we have to compare each other's trauma and tragedy and suffering. It's not a competition. Everyone deserves help. Everyone deserves equitable help. Maybe you don't need the same help that the other person needs, but we're going to get you both to a stable place so that you have a foundation to build from. That is my goal. I hope anyone watching this agrees with me, and I hope you go Google how to have a constituent meeting with your legislators and representatives so you can tell them that you want more affordable housing and that you want accessible housing for people and in need that need it. Thanks for watching. I know I've talked your ear off. Peace.